Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, how many times should I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Should I forgive as many as 7 times?" Jesus said, "Not just 7 times, but rather as many as 77 times." When we read this, our first question might be, is Jesus really suggesting that there's a limit? 77 times? Now, I've never counted how many times I've forgiven somebody, and I certainly haven't tried to keep count of how many times I've been forgiven. But I have to imagine I've probably offered forgiveness and received forgiveness for sure, more than 77 times. I don't think Jesus is actually offering an exact number of times that we should forgive or be forgiven. I think Jesus is taking Peter's suggestion of 7 times and saying, no, way more than that. Think 77 times. Why does he do that? I think he does it because Jesus knows that there is a status quo. And I would argue that the status quo continues even today. The status quo is not one of Jesus, though. It's one of the world. The world seems to put limits on forgiveness. Fool me twice, right? Forgiveness, we put limits on. How many times must I forgive you before I just push you away, walk away, exit you from my life? We ask that question of Jesus now. And Peter asked it, and he thought 7 sounded like a pretty fair number. How many times should I forgive somebody in a world that says put a limit on forgiveness? Well, what about 7, Jesus? That feels pretty graceful. And Jesus acknowledges that the world puts limits on forgiveness, on grace. And he refuses to do the same. I met with someone from a previous church who shared with me that they didn't possibly think they could be forgiven anymore. They had, in their words, done too much in their life to be forgiven any longer. It was on Ash Wednesday, a day in which we acknowledge our humanity, our mortality, a day we remember that in spite of our human condition of being imperfect, God meets us where we are and offers forgiveness. As a pastor, I had ashes in a cup in my hand. And as he relayed to me why he could no longer be forgiven, it took a risk. It drew the sign of a cross in ashes on his forehead, as you do on Ash Wednesday. And I reminded him that nothing can separate us from the love of God in Jesus Christ. Maybe you feel as though something you've done is unforgivable. Maybe you see something in the world that the world deems unforgivable. Can Jesus find a way to forgiveness? I count on that. And so may we remember that. There's no limit. Not 7, not even 77 times. God's grace, God's forgiveness knows no boundary. Amen.